Yes. Yes, sure. So we talk like this to each other. If there's a point you need to make, that I'll turn that round because it's really easy to talk to that instead of that. That's the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit like when you take a selfie on the phone, isn't it? When everyone's looking at the screen and not the lens.
Yeah, so it looks like you've got a squint. We did Carly and I did a video before, and where we had the script there, and it's like, oh, that looks awful. Right, I'll just do a quick colour check. Sure. So I can correct the colours later on. And need the words. And a focus check. That wasn't supposed to happen.
What's that one for?
Make sure it's actually, because it's autofocus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just nab the image off the internet, as everybody does. I think the saturation's about right. Okay. I'll just close this door just in case anybody makes a noise. We're quite fortunate here in that it is quite quiet. Hi, my name is TG Trooper, and with me today is Chiquita Arnot. Now, Chiquita was a primary school teacher for 30 years, so I believe the term "a rich vein to mind" comes to mind, and she's with me to discuss her debut novel, which is But There Is No F in Phonics, which is quite a nice title. So, what motivated you to write a book?
Well, it wasn't on the cards, and I took early retirement from primary school teaching and finished in the summer holidays and had the summer holiday like all teachers do, so wasn't affected at all. But then in the beginning of September, got really low actually. And when I kind of thought about it, and I thought I've taken early retirement, I'm meant to be enjoying this time, but actually I found that I wasn't laughing anymore. And I think when you're in a primary school or any busy work setting, you're a part of something. You've got constant banter, we had a lot of fun, a lot of teasing. Yes, teaching is a very stressful job, but if you've got people that you can work well alongside with, you can always laugh about the stressful things. And the children themselves are very funny. I taught reception when I retired, so that's age 4 and 5, and they're constantly funny. They're very honest. They say exactly what they're thinking. And so I started to recall a lot of the funny incidents. And as I was mulling it over, I thought, there's a book in here somewhere. So after a couple of false starts, I began to write about this fictitious teacher through the school year, and recalling many of the true funny stories that actually happened and funny things that the children had said. And it was like a real therapy. I found myself laughing as I was typing. So it became really helpful for me.
So the teacher is Miss Belvedere, yes?
Mrs. Belvedere,
Miss Belvedere, based on anybody in particular?
I think she is the teacher that I would have liked to have been.
Oh, right.
So that I do see a lot of myself in her, but not completely. It was quite easy to write about this character that I wish I could have been all of the time.
Okay, yeah, that's good. So that was characterisation. Did you find that difficult, or did that come naturally? Or?
I think because I was writing about a situation or a setting that I was very familiar with, the characterisation was quite easy. I've had a lot of teacher training students over the years, and I kind of merged them all into this one character, Mr. McLaurin, and then an apprentice as well, who I could hear her in my head as I was typing, and her personality just came out really, really strongly. So I think it's an amalgamation of different characters that I know in real life that I've created other characters from. So I think because I was writing about something I was very familiar with, the characters came easily. Okay.
Now, there seems to be a sense of frustration in how reading is being taught in schools. Was that how you felt when you were a teacher?
Yes, particularly towards the end. We had to teach phonics to a very rigid structure. And it was another one of the last government's approved phonics schemes. And I was actually really angry by the time I finished teaching, because in absolutely every subject across the board, we teach to the children's strengths and in a way that they will understand and in a way that they will engage. But all of a sudden, reading, which to me is the most important skill that children need to learn, we were constricted, and there was this robotic approach that you have to teach like this. You can't do any songs anymore, you can't do actions, you can't do anything fun and engaging. It's just got to be literally straitjacketed. And I saw children's faces just glaze over when we'd come to teach phonics sessions, because they couldn't engage with the sessions. And we were bombarding them with vocabulary that they don't need to know. 4-year-olds don't need to know trigraph, digraph, and all these complicated terms. And we were running out of time to teach a love of reading.
Oh, right.
And so I didn't feel that I was able to teach phonics and reading with the passion that I always had done. Because it was so restricted in how I had to teach it. And I just got so angry with it, and I felt like I was punching fog when you try and argue the situation.
I'll use that.
I did. I just felt I was so passionate about what I believed in, and nobody wanted to listen. Well, this is the way that we have to do it, so you have to do it like this. And in any other subject, it wouldn't happen. You can be a bit more flexible. But with phonics, it was suddenly very, very constrained.
Yeah. For the benefit of the people watching, can you describe what phonics actually is, please?
Well, phonics is breaking down the English language into its smallest unit or smallest component. And that was my bugbear all the way along, because English is not a phonetic language. So, for example, we have a digraph and a trigraph. So a digraph is two sounds put together, like a k and a h becomes ch, or a t and a h becomes th, unless you're Thomas and you live in Streatham. So there's all these different rules to it. You can't teach one way. And a trigraph, which is 3 letters, one sound, for example, IGH, we all know is the I sound. But when you're breaking it down to read and you see I, g, h, it makes no sense at all. So phonics is trying to identify those idiosyncrasies in the English written language. We're completely unaware of it when we speak it, but when we read it and write it, all these new rules just appear.
Rules, right. Now, there are plans to make reading compulsory in school. Well, there's talk of plans to make reading compulsory in schools, and maybe even a test of reading. Do you think that making it a requirement will help or put kids off reading?
I think we already have tests in reading in all subjects. So to have another one for reading, I think is unnecessary. But also, we're not teaching a love of reading. If I compare teaching at the end of my career to the beginning, at the beginning of my career, we would enrich children's spoken language with stories all the time. Stories and reading stories was a priority. Telling stories was a priority. And children had a much richer vocabulary, so that when they came to reading, they'd already sorted it in their minds and knew the words that they were going to be reading. So I think testing reading or having a separate test for reading is unnecessary, because children are showing whether they can read, whether they're doing a geography paper or a history paper, or they have to have a good understanding of English and of reading. And I just think it's an unnecessary pressure that we're putting on young children too soon.
And there's an aeroplane. I hope that doesn't get picked up. What's surprised you about writing a book?
I think when you're doing something creative, so I took some advice from another author, and I was talking to him about writing when I was in the very early stages, and he said to me, trust your mind. And I thought that was an interesting thing to say, because it's like the imposter syndrome, isn't it? I'm going to write this book, and well, who's going to want to read your book type of thing. But as I began to write, I can really understand what he meant, because I was thinking of things that I'd never thought of before and in a different way. And I thought that's so true, that I can actually trust my mind to come up with something and enjoy doing it as well. And I've met so many interesting people through the process. And I was completely unaware of this sort of author world where there's so many different writers of different genres that have been really helpful and supportive. There's been a lot of surprises that just keep popping up, actually.
Excellent, good. So what do you like about writing a book?
I think it's that feeling justified in being away in a bubble, actually, and having something at the end of it that shows you've produced something, that time has been worthwhile. And like I said at the beginning, it was a huge therapy for me to recall funny stories. And my niece Jessie had read my book, and she said to me, "Your book's made me cry in 3 places," and that was helpful as well, because you want to engage with people, you want to engage with real life,
and trigger the emotions. Yes.
And although a lot of the stories in my book are funny, it's having those moments of emotion as well that have triggered sadness. So,
bit of a counterpoint in there, which you have to have.
Yeah.
So, what do you dislike about writing a book?
I think because it's almost become a hobby, I don't have the pressure of having to meet a publisher's deadlines, or it's not my chosen career, but it is still that pressure of having to do something, because I can get to the end of the day and think I've achieved nothing, I've written nothing, but I know that there are stories forming in my mind, so I can kind of justify it like that. But also, it's the hardest part in the whole publication, and I'm sure you'd agree, is the marketing afterwards. And yes, you've written a book. Now what? How do you get that book out there? How do you get people to read it, and engaging with people on that level?
How do you swim against the tide of the celebrity dross?
Exactly. If you're famous and you write a book, everybody buys your book because they know your name. But it's the hidden authors that, and there are so many brilliant authors out there that just will get unnoticed.
4,000 books released in the UK every week. Yes. So, what's your next challenge as a writer?
I think it would be interesting to investigate things like writing short stories for magazines or in competitions, because when you start writing, you've got time and lots of words that you can write. You can make your story better by making it longer, but actually to write a really good story in, say, 500 words would be quite a challenge. So for me, that's at the back of my mind as a bit of a challenge to, if you think you can write, can you do it in 500 words?
There's the thing, the Nano Writers Month now.
Yes.
Have you thought about that?
I have. I've looked at that, and and then I think, that looks hard. Maybe next year. But it's one of those things that it's definitely in there for a challenge.
Okay. What advice would you give anyone who is thinking about becoming an author?
I think I would advise them to start writing, but to do some homework and talk to real people, talk to authors in your local community, join author groups and book clubs so that you can get advice, because I got lots of advice from you and from Carly, which was really helpful as I was starting the early process of writing. And there are lots of things that could trip you up, but other information that you need to know about self-publication, or whether you're going to go with a publishing company, and those sorts of things that there's this whole world that I was completely unaware of. So
I'm still constantly amazed by it. Constantly amazed. How do you deal with criticism and negativity? Because there's a lot of it about.
Yes, and I think this was a piece of advice that I took from an already published author, that he advised that there are trolls out there who will give really bad reviews or say nasty things, and I think you need to prepare for those. And because I have a degree in sarcasm, I would be able to say, thank you so much for your wonderful feedback, have a lovely day, kiss, kiss, kiss. but also it's to look at who it's come from.
Yes.
And it's to think, right, I don't know you, I've not seen any books that you've published, so I don't actually think I'm going to listen to you, but I am going to listen to people who want the best for me, and who want to support me and encourage me, because their criticism will come from a place of wanting me to be a better writer, not just because they're having a bad day and don't know me and don't like what I've done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I got a 2-star review of one of my books on Amazon, but when I looked, that reviewer only ever gives 2-star reviews regardless of what they read, so you just can't tell.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
just can't
exactly.
tell.
Yeah.
Reviews, are they critical? You don't, like I say, you don't know who's written them, you don't know what their motivation is. You a fellow author who sort of wants you to fail or whatever. You just don't know.
Yeah.
Is there a second book on the way?
There is, and it's the exact same school year in the same school, but it's from the caretaker's point of view.
Okay.
So some of these situations will be parallel, but from a different point of view. So although it's not the second in the series, it is the second in the series, but they run alongside each other.
Yeah.
So his story starts not in September, but in August, in his summer holidays, as he's preparing for the next school year. So Mrs. Belvedere's in there, Mr. McLaurin, and all the other characters, that they'll pop up, but in a slightly different way.
So rather than a sequel, it's more like a companion book.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good word, a companion book.
Interesting. So, where can people buy your book?
It's on Amazon, and I have a website, my own website, that my son-in-law Matt created for me. There's always stuff that you have to learn, isn't it, as a writer? There's the websites, and I got a friend to do the graphic design for me as well, so that was interesting. It's on Amazon, and there's a link on my website.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Chiquita. Thank you for coming along. And Chiquita's book, There Is No F in Phonics, is available in Amazon, and there will be a link in the description. Thank you very much. I think that went quite well.
Okay.
That went very well. I can't actually see how long that was running for. So what I'll do is I'll what I call top and tail it. I'll put a little intro at the beginning, and the rest of it I'm going to leave as is. I'll probably put the bloopers at the end, because people do like that. And the reason why I leave it unedited is because people want to hear the ums and ahs. I don't really want it polished.
Yeah, don't polished.
So I'll send you the unedited file complete, and that'll be on WeTransfer, and you'll have to download it within a day, otherwise the link expires. Or they want me to pay £8 a month, which I don't really want to do. And then I'll put once I've got it edited down with the top and tail and what have you, bloopers at the end. I can't believe I did that. I never do that. And then I'll create a YouTube thing. I'll put all the links on various Facebook groups, and like I said, the more people that view it, the more people that comment, the better, because it bumps it up. And again, just like publishing a book, there's a tide of stuff that you're fighting against to get noticed.
Yeah.
My name is TG Trooper, and with me today is Chiquita Arnot, here to I've never done that before. My name is TG Trooper, and with me today is Chiquita Arnot, who was a teacher for 30 years teaching primary school children. I think that's the term "a rich vein to mind" comes to mind, and here to discuss. Oh, I've done it again. I'd never do this. Be a blooper reel at the end. At least I didn't swear this time.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. There's plenty of time.